recording so that we'll be able to have a copy of this on our channel. Um, um, if you are not talking, just put your microphone on mute. If you are around where there is noise, put your microphone on mute. Then when you want to talk again, you can unmute it and then you talk. Hallelujah. So this is the big series that we started last fall. As you can see, we are close to the end of it. Like the first lesson was on the spirit of discernment, which every believer has. The second is the gift of discernment, which some people have. And then we looked at the four living creatures around the throne that are full of eyes, and we described that those eyes are also connected with discernment, how important God takes discernment. Then we looked at discerning our thoughts. We know that thoughts run through our minds a lot. So discerning our thoughts. And then we looked at one person, one case study in the book of Job, Elihu. How Elihu, because he discerned his thought before speaking, he was able to turn that discussion that involved Job and his three friends. Elihu is actually credited to be the one who turned that discussion around. And then we looked at discernment in the ministry of Jesus, how Jesus used discernment in some situations. And then we looked at discernment and other words. That is, we saw wisdom, knowledge, intelligence, discernment, and so on. 7 words that we looked at. One of them was discernment right here. And then we also covered discerning our dreams, discerning dreams that come from ourselves, dreams that come from the devil, and dreams that come from God. And then we looked at dream interpretations right here. And then right now we are looking at discerning divination, false prophets, and true prophecy. This is what we are going to be looking at. And then the last lesson will be discerning the will of God in our lives. And then this big series will come to an end, right? It is the biggest series that we have ever had to cover so far. So we thank God for it. So we're going to look at divination, discerning divination, false prophets, and true prophecy. So this section is going to be covered in 2 lessons. We'll cover the first 2, some scriptural warnings that Jesus gave, and also what divination is and how divination is being used in our world today. Then the discernment part of it is going to come in the second lesson, that is next week, when we will see those characteristics that will help us to discern how divination manifests and what false prophets do as well. So that will be the second lesson. But for today, we'll look at scriptural warnings and what divination is and those who are using divination. Okay, so part A of the 4 is scriptural warning. Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 14. Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 14. So this is the last book of Moses before the children of Israel got into the promised land. So Moses was giving them final warnings to prepare them for their entry into the promised land, to go and take over the land that God was leading them into. Moses said, "For these nations which you will dispossess, listen to soothsayers and diviners. But as for you, the Lord your God has not appointed such for you." In other words, God does not allow you to do the things that these evil nations are doing. So he was warning them that this is what these people do, but your God does not want you to do that. Diviners, divination. Divination is Satan's counterfeit to prophecy. Satan's counterfeit of prophecy. So there are many things that God does that Satan tries to imitate. Satan copies in his own way. But we know that anything that Satan copies, he copies it to do evil because that is his nature. So as we receive prophecies, so Satan also gives divination to those people who are after him. And we are going to see a lot that this is what false prophets use to deceive people. It is that spirit of divination. Matthew chapter 24, verse 11, Jesus says here, he says, then many false prophets will rise up and deceive many. So in this chapter, Jesus was talking about the end of the world. He was giving the signs of the end times. He was giving how there will be wars, there will be rumors of wars, nation will rise against nation, the love of God will wax cold, iniquity will abound, all of those things that will happen at the end of the world, a lot of which we are seeing right now. Then, as he was giving those, he says, another thing that will happen is that there will be false prophets. There will not just be false prophets, but there will be many. Take note of that. There will not just be false prophets, there will be many of them. So it really makes us to be thinking carefully. Thinking carefully. And those who are going to follow false prophets will also be many. Those who are going to be deceived, there will be many. It will become like the order of the day. Like the order of the day. Many. So something that we really need to be thinking about carefully. In the latter days, people become lazy. They don't read their scriptures. They don't pray like they should. They don't fast like they should. They are only looking for somebody who is doing something so that they can follow the person. And so Satan takes advantage of that. Satan knows how to take advantage. He takes advantage of that and sends false prophets. And those false prophets will deceive many. And verses 24 and 25 in the same chapter, after Jesus had given so between verse 11 and verse 24, he gave many other signs. And then he comes back again to this point. He comes back again to this point. He says, false Christs and false prophets will rise. He says, and they will show great signs and wonders to deceive. So these false prophets will not only be talking, but they will be doing something. They will be showing signs. They will be performing wonders. And the whole goal of that is to deceive. The whole goal of that is to deceive. And that deception will be strong. That Jesus Christ said that if possible, even the elect, if possible, even the elect. It tells us that the kinds of signs that these false prophets will be showing, the kind of wonders they will be doing, they will really deceive people, really deceive people. That if possible, even the elect will be affected. And then Jesus exclaimed here, he says, see, I have told you before. He is emphasizing, he is saying it with a strong voice. He says, see, I have told you before. It will be a serious moment that we really need to be careful about these things. So, Jesus continued to describe false prophets. He says that they are wolves in sheep's clothing. A false prophet is a wolf. A wolf is a deadly animal. It's an animal that destroys. It's an animal that is not friendly. But the wolf will not come as a wolf. It will cover itself as if it is a sheep, as if it is a friendly animal. It will cover itself because it knows that if it comes as a wolf, people will see it, people will identify it, and nobody will want to follow it. That is how false prophets do. They don't come showing you their colors, they come pretending. Pretending. Let's take note of that word. Now, when you are interacting with somebody, are you able to tell if that person is genuine or that person is pretending? That is what Jesus is describing right here. Wolves in sheep's clothing. When you interact with a sheep, can you see the wolf inside? When you interact with a sheep, can you see the wolf inside? That is the objective of this section that we are going through. Discerning divination and false prophets. So Matthew chapter 7 verses 15 to 20, he says, beware of false prophets. Be careful of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravenous wolves. They are deadly wolves. Deadly. Deadly wolves. But he says, you will know them by their fruits. You will know them by their fruits. You will know them by their fruits. Next week, we are going to look at those fruits. We are going to look at those fruits next week. You will know them by their fruits. He says, do men gather grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? So, when you go to thorn bushes or when you are around a bunch of grass, if you don't gather grapes, then that bunch of grass is not grapes. If you are around some trees and you don't gather figs, instead you are gathering thistles in mint, or what we call in pidgin chuku chuku, thistles. Those sharp parts of a plant that pierce through somebody. They are like weapons. They attack you. Those thistles, they attack you. If you are not careful around them, they will pierce your skin. As they function physically, that is also how Satan is in the spirit. He covers himself, attracts you so that he can pierce you. He can harm you. And the ultimate goal is to kill. So you will not gather figs from them. These nice fruits, beautiful fruits, grapes, sweet, tasty. So you go to thorn bushes, you will not find grapes. By their fruits you shall know them. Even so, every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. So pay attention to the fruits. We are going through some scriptural warnings today. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor can a bad tree bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. So Jesus is giving the judgment right there that will come at the end. Therefore, by their fruits you will know them. So pay attention to their fruits. Pay attention to their fruits. No matter what they talk, no matter what they say, no matter what they do, pay attention to their fruits. Questions. How do you tell the difference between a true prophet and a false prophet? What kind of signs and wonders will a false prophet perform? These are some of the questions that may be running through our minds How do I ensure that I do not get deceived by false prophets? So these are the things that are on our minds as we go through this section. Signs and wonders. This is one of the things that will carry so many people away. Not everyone who prophesies, not everyone who gives a sign that comes to pass. Somebody will give you a sign that you will see this will happen. And then as time goes on, you see it actually happening. That does not mean that that person is from God. That does not mean. This is one thing that we need to remind ourselves. Sometimes when somebody gives a sign and it comes to pass, it just gets people so excited. Wow, that person said this and it came to pass. Wow. No, we need to go beyond that. We need to go beyond that. We need to remind ourselves beyond that. That is what the Bible is teaching us. That don't just end at the level of the signs that somebody is giving. You have to go deeper, because a false prophet will come with sheep clothing. You will need to go deeper. You will need to go inside to be able to see the wolf nature of the false prophet. Deuteronomy chapter 13, verses 1 to 4. The Spirit of God through Moses was telling the Israelites. He says, if there arises among you a prophet or a dreamer of dreams, and he gives you a sign or a wonder, and the sign or the wonder comes to pass, of which he spoke to you, saying, after the person has given the sign or wonder, it happened. And then the person goes on to say, let us go after other gods. Now, see, the person is giving you a strange doctrine. The person is giving you a strange doctrine. They will not give you these same words that we read right here. They will not give us these same words, but they will say something that will have this same meaning right here. They will say something that will have this same meaning, this same meaning. And it will be something that will excite you. It will be something that will be appealing to you. It will be something that will please your flesh. If you have not crucified your flesh, it will be something that will please your flesh. Even your flesh can be another god. So they will not just use these same words that we see here, but they will say something that will have this meaning, this exact meaning. They have given a sign, and then after the sign has happened, now because they gave a sign, the sign came to pass. It opens people's heart now. People will open their hearts for them. And now they will start to pump them with strange doctrines. Let us go after other gods. It says, which you have not known. They will start to tell you to do things that you have not known. You have not studied from scripture. You have not heard God ever told you to do that. He says, you shall not listen to the words of that prophet. You shall not listen, or that dreamer of dreams. For the Lord your God is testing you to know whether you love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. Amen. So, not everyone who performs signs and wonders is operating under the Spirit of God. Exodus chapter 7, verses 11 to 12a. But Pharaoh also called the wise men. You see how they are called here? The wise men and the sorcerers. So according to the standard of the society, they are wise men. So the magicians, you see, they are actually magicians. Magicians that are called wise men. So the magicians of Egypt, they also did in like manner. They also did in like manner with their enchantments. For every man threw his rod, and they became serpents. Every man threw his rod, every magician, every sorcerer.
Mm.
See, when God sent Moses, accompanied by Aaron, to go and speak to Pharaoh, God told them, when you get to Pharaoh and Pharaoh asks for a sign, throw your rod on the floor and it is going to turn into a serpent. What happened? The magicians of Pharaoh, they also threw their rods and they became serpents. So you can see that false prophets, Satan, basically can do something similar that God does. He can do something similar that God does. Just looking at the story ending right there, Moses' rod became a serpent. The rods of the magicians also became serpents. So how can you tell which serpent is God's and which is Satan's? In the case of Moses, Moses' rod swallowed all the other serpents. That was the only thing extra. In our world today, that things have become so diluted. What God is able to do through many people does not go that extra mile that the serpent of Moses did. And so you see God's serpent, you see the devil's serpent, and you become confused. You become confused. But this is just to teach us that we need to be careful. What God does, Satan can counterfeit it. Exodus chapter 7, verses 20 to 22. It says, and Moses and Aaron did so, just as the Lord commanded. So he lifted up the rod and struck the waters that were in the river, in the sight of Pharaoh and in the sight of his servants. And all the waters that were in the river were turned to blood. Turned to blood. The fish that were in the river died. The river stank, so it was stinky. It had become blood with dead fish, so it stunk. And the Egyptians could not drink the water of the river, so there was blood throughout all the land of Egypt. Then the magicians of Egypt did so with their enchantments. You see, they did the same thing. What Moses did, they too did the same thing. And this attitude of Satan did not end in Egypt. It is everywhere, all around the world. Counterfeiting. And because those magicians did it, Pharaoh's heart grew hard. So his heart became harder. So Pharaoh's magicians use demonic powers. Pharaoh's magicians use demonic powers to perform similar miracles. That is what false prophets do today. Just because they are able to do something, you don't know where they are coming from. You don't know what powers they are using. So don't just fall for these signs and wonders. Appearance and wide acceptance. As a prophet of God can wear a suit and tie to preach on the pulpit, so can a magician, a sorcerer, a diviner, even a witch doctor, or our case study for today, a false prophet also puts on a suit and a tie, transforms himself into quote unquote a man of God. You remember, they will come as wolves in sheep clothing. They will call themselves, quote unquote, a man of God. Yet he is not. Yet he is not. So their appearance can be deceptive. Acts chapter 8, verses 9 to 11. But there was a certain man called Simon who previously practiced sorcery in the city and astonished the people of Samaria or the nation, claiming that he was someone great. He claimed that he was someone great. He did not tell them that he was dealing with demonic powers. He told them he was someone great, to whom they all gave heed, from the least to the greatest, saying, this man is the great power of God. Hear that? But he was a sorcerer. And they heeded him because he had astonished them with his sorcery for a long time. He had done what? He had astonished them. He had performed signs and wonders. He performed signs and wonders. Nobody was wise enough to know that those signs that they were seeing, they are demonic powers. They did not have discernment. 2 Corinthians 11:13 to 15. We have read this a few times in this series. It says, for such are false apostles, deceitful workers. That is the whole aim of Satan, to deceive. You think that you are following God, but because you did not apply discernment. Deceitful workers, transforming themselves into apostles of Christ. And no wonder, for Satan himself transformed himself into an angel of light. Therefore, it is no great thing if his ministers also transform themselves into ministers of righteousness. They will come like ministers of righteousness. But we need to look carefully, whose end will be according to their works. There are many false prophets around the world today who perform signs and wonders, and they amaze their followers. They amaze their followers. However, those followers do not question the source of the signs and wonders in order to discern, whether it is of God or of the devil. So we are going through this series so that we'll be able to question things. Through questioning, we'll be able to discern. Question things. Don't just assume, oh, this is a great name. This is a great man. And we need to question things. In our apostolic church doctrine, the last tenet, we have 11 beliefs. The last one says the possibility of falling from grace. Somebody may have been the type that you accepted in time past, but it doesn't mean you don't continue to watch. It doesn't mean that you should put down your guards, because even in these recent times that we are going through this series, we have heard people that we trusted for some time, how strange stories are beginning to come up about them. So we must question all the time. We must question. Okay, so those are the scriptural warnings. We'll end today by talking about divination. Divination. So, divination is a demonic power that is used to foretell the future. Divination. Maybe you've been hearing, maybe some of us have been hearing about these words, but we have not really looked it up or even stopped to think about it. It's a power from the devil that is used to foretell the future. So just because you heard about the future should not excite you. Divination is used to access hidden knowledge. Take note of this, hidden knowledge. Pay attention to these words carefully. Somebody with the power of divination, they will access hidden knowledge. And you may just think, oh, how did this person know this? Or secrets of a person or a people or an event. Take note of all of this carefully. A person, a people, or an event. The Greek word for divination comes from the root word python. That's a snake, right? The spirit of python counterfeits the spirit of prophecy. We already said this earlier. It's a direct counterfeit of prophecy. Divination is a direct counterfeit of prophecy. It's a form of witchcraft that psychics have. In America, sometimes you even see psychics on TV giving you secret information, personal information, information about you, information about your surroundings, about your future. It's the spirit that possesses witch doctors. It is the same spirit that false prophets take and use. Divination, magic, new age guru, voodoo priest, mediums, etc. We have read from Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 14. God warns, we should have N here, God warns us against the practice of divination. The act of divining is a foretelling of future events or discovering things that are secret or hidden by the aid of superior beings. So they are using powers that are stronger than the power of ordinary men. Superior beings. Again, false prophets use divination to foretell the future. Divination is something that is widespread. The spirit of divination is, we can say it is all over the earth. All over the earth. There is no society, no human society today that there is not one form or another of the practice of divination. No human society. Divination is so widely, Satan uses a lot of divination because that is how he gets the interest of people. To be able to tell you what you don't know. To be able to tell you what is ahead of you. Satan uses that a lot. People who practice divination, they include diviners. As we have read already from Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 14. They include false prophets, those who prophesy deceit. We have the verses there. Because of time, we'll not be able to read all of this. They include enchanters. Who are enchanters? Those who use magic to cast spells or to put curses on people. They are enchanters. They use the spirit of divination to get secret information, to be able to cast their curses. Divination is also used by witches. Witches are those who use magic to do evil. Deuteronomy 18 verse 10 talks about them. Divination is also used by charmers, people who perform charms. They use powers to attract and manipulate. Attract and manipulate. I remember when we were younger, we had some of our young friends whom, when they want to maybe talk to a girl and maybe the girl has refused them, and they will say that I'm going to get a charm to charm the girl. What did that charm do? It's a demonic power that will cause that person to be attracted to them, and they'll be able to manipulate the person. The spirit of divination is behind that as well. Mediums, those who communicate with the dead, they are called mediums. They also use the spirit of divination. In 1 Samuel chapter 28, verse 3, we read about Saul, King Saul. When he had disobeyed God, the Spirit of God had left him, and he was faced with a war against the Philistines. And when he saw the army of the Philistines, he became scared. He tried to inquire from God. God did not answer him. And then he asked for a medium. And he was led to the witch of Endor. That lady was a medium who communicates with the dead. Consultants of familiar spirits. Consultants of familiar spirits. Familiar spirits are demonic servants. They are demons who serve people. Just as you can have physical servants, there are also spiritual servants, demons. So you see, when God gives his children angels to serve them, angels to protect them, angels to do different things for them, Satan also has his counterfeit. They are familiar spirits. For example, you see a witch doctor, he has familiar spirits that he can consult. He has familiar spirits that he can tell them to go and do things. Consultants of familiar spirits. We see that in Deuteronomy 18, verse 11. Magicians, those who do extraordinary things with demonic power. Magicians, who can do things that ordinary people cannot do. Astrologers, all of these people use the spirit of divination. All of them. Astrologers, those who use heavenly objects to predict people's future. When we were growing, how common was this thing? Like the zodiac signs, like zodiac, that has divided people into 12 months. You see, this zodiac sign is for people who were born within this month. This other zodiac sign for people who were born within this month. And they'll be giving you information, giving you next month is going to be like this for you. Oh, this kind of thing. And people were so attracted to that. And they will be asking, and they will be excited. And they'll be asking each other, what is your zodiac sign? What is your zodiac sign? Oh, what does your sign say is going to happen to you in this new month? All of those things. They are playing with divination. Just because it can tell them what they don't know. Sorcerers, those who possess magic powers, they are sorcerers. You go and tell them that you want a certain thing to be done, and then they do it for you because they possess powers from magic. Necromancers, those who use witchcraft or sorcery to reanimate the dead, that is to put life back into the dead, which is actually not life but an evil spirit. They can use their evil powers to put an evil spirit into somebody who is dead, and then the person will be interacting, will come back to life, sometimes maybe in the same society or in another society somewhere else, and will be carrying out demonic agendas. Necromancers, soothsayers, those who use magic to predict the future. Soothsayers. So all of these people, look at the list here. All of these people use the spirit of divination. You can see how common the spirit of divination is. All of these people. So divination is a big deal in this fallen world that we are in. And that's why we are talking about it, because we are talking about false prophets. They too use it. They use it. How are diviners regarded in the society? Those who practice divination, they were regarded as wise and knowledgeable men. You see, the ignorant people, the people who are in darkness because they don't know any better, They call them the wise men because of their ability to see beyond normal, to do beyond human ability. They call them wise people, knowledgeable people. Like we see King Nebuchadnezzar in Daniel, even Pharaoh that we read a few moments ago. People who use divination, they earn a lot of money for their quote unquote prophecies because they amaze people. So people just open up and give. They demand and they get. They earn a lot of money because of these powers. They are admired. They are admired. And they are thought to be of God. There are places that are thought to be of God, the like the situation in Acts chapter 8. And they were consulted in desperate or difficult times. Now, when people's backs are on the wall, they don't know what else to do. What will they do? People who are in the world, what will they do? They will turn to these people whom they know that has some knowledge, that can do the extraordinary. They will turn to them. So this is the summary. We're just laying the foundation here, and then we are going to look at what these people actually do, how these false prophets use these powers in the next um, session, which is next week. So false prophets use divination to deceive. So if you are looking at a false prophet, or if you have discerned somebody to be a false prophet, then that person has the spirit of divination without question. Because it is by the power of that spirit that they are able to do what they do. The Lord warns his children against divination and diviners. Jesus emphasized the coming of false prophets. He emphasized it because it is a serious matter. He said, if possible, even the elect will be deceived. If possible. So he emphasized their coming and their ability to deceive. They have a strong ability, but by the Spirit of God, we can resist them. That's why we need to be filled with the Spirit of God. We need to be filled with the Spirit of God. A prophet should not be judged by his prophecies, by his miracles, and his widespread acceptance, but also by their character and doctrine. Divination is a demonic power that can foretell the future. It's Satan's counterfeit to prophecy. And it is used by so many evil sources that include psychics, witch doctors, false prophets, magic, new age gurus, voodoo priests, mediums, and so on and so forth. Widespread. Those who practice divination live by the money they make from it. They live by the money they make from it. And they are admired by the world. They are regarded as wise and they are consulted in desperate times. Hallelujah. So the next lecture, next Bible study, we are now going to go into what they actually do when they are performing. Amen. So that was our lesson for today. If we have any comments.